Mindset is the story that you tell yourself, and those stories are made out of words. Our words are the foundation of everything we do in life.
Your mom told you not to play with your food, but we're telling you to play with your words, right?
Words really create your reality. They literally create your reality. I was on a client call yesterday, and a client was telling me how they shifted their words and how impactful it was of something that I had shared with them months prior. I said, let me give you one more thing. I said, what would happen if you started your day with show me how good it can get? Just show me how good it can get.
There's no such thing as getting over it. You can only go through it.
Hey, Perfect Spirit. Thanks for tuning in to the Vibrant Soul Society, The Conversations. Our mission is to help you discover that you are greater than your thoughts, and beyond your thoughts is this perfect spirit, this vibrant soul that can do all things. So thanks for your likes, your comments, your shares to help me get this mission into the world, that we are greater than our thoughts. So today we have a very special guest, actually two guests from Fortify Health, Justin and Stacy. Welcome to the conversations.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
having
much
us.
for having us.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, so you give me some warning beforehand that you can cross paths at time. That's life. Life is a little chaotic at times, so it's perfect. Let's just begin here and dive in. So people that are unfamiliar with you, how would you describe yourself? Like, why together? Like, why are you in this mission together?
We told you that was going to happen, didn't we? So, the main reason that Stacey and I decided to go into business together is number one, we were already good friends. Between the time that we became good friends and started a business together was not a very big window of time. And we also realized that what one person did well was something that the other person could learn from and was complimented by. As a matter of fact, Stacy was my client before she was my business partner and friend. Once we figured out what her strengths are, what my strengths are, and put our brains together, that created what we know to be a really powerful dynamic in terms of a relationship and a coaching team. As you pointed out right before we started this call, it brings a unique perspective to all our clients because they get a masculine side and a feminine side. They also get different age perspectives and life perspectives. I have two kids. Stacy has five kids. I'm married to a woman. She's married to a man, and we're different ages. So we've lived different amounts of life. We've lived in different places. We've done different types of things. And those dynamics add up to like, oh, you get two sets of eyeballs and two brains to contribute to whatever it is that you're trying to do with your mindset. So that's my best answer. That's the first time we've ever been asked that question too, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I love that answer. Great answer.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting perspective that everyone has unique perspectives. So you might see one thing one way, she might see things a different way. And together you can come together to help these clients find that new way forward that's going to work from them from these different perspectives. So I'm just curious. I'm going to throw it over to Stacy. So why are we focused on mindset?
Ooh. Well, let's define mindset the way that Justin and I like to. Mindset is the story that you tell yourself, and those stories are made out of words. Our words are the foundation of everything we do in life. Our words impact our breath, posture, imagination, and emotions. Those are the foundations of every decision that we make on a really granular level. So if we're going to focus on mindset, that it's not this grandiose thing, which it can be. If we go, well, if I shift my words, then I can shift what this means and I can shift my story to have more of what I want, then it's a small pivot, a perspective change that helps people get farther along in their journey than they previously were with simplicity. I've seen in this industry, I've been in this industry 10 years, and I've done the most complicated things and got people results with a lot of effort. And this is the most simple, repeatable, strategic way to move people from where they feel stuck and not seeing their true essence to who they want to be with ease. Not that the work itself is easy, but the process is relatively easy.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even understand that they're living a story that they're telling themselves. They're not even aware that they're in a story. How do you
Agreed.
get them to first see that this is a story and it can be changed?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yes.
We play games and we have fun. And when people come, if you're up to it, we can play a game. It'll be very quick. And I promise you'll have fun, and your listeners will get to have fun too. When you have people who have big stories and they're not even aware of them, like they've repeated a pattern, been married twice, 3 times, or they see themselves in the same job that they don't love, or they feel really stuck. Typically, when people are stuck, it's not the first time. And we hear, I can't believe I'm doing this again. It's the again that carries so much pressure. So we play games to make something that feels complicated really simple and bridge trust and awareness to go, hey, this doesn't have to be as hard as you're making it. When we can have a change of one word can reduce pressure and change the emotion of a situation, then we can get into the deeper things. So I saw you nod your head. Are you risking having a little fun this morning, sir?
Well, that's the thing that most aren't even aware that things are amplifying, as you say, that there's a pattern there, that they're unable to see that pattern. Like my own story was, I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. Like the story was cascading until eventually I lost the ability to walk. So then it was like, okay, what's going on here? But I didn't have any awareness of this until I saw that I had this story, and this story doesn't have to be my truth. We get hung up in the stress, the seriousness, and we stay stuck. It's the lightness, the fun, the play that changes that energy. So yeah, let's play a game.
You want to go for it?
Which one?
Let's shoot him.
Okay.
I'm going to pass the baton.
Got it.
I got to talk for a while.
So, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to write down a should statement for yourself, whatever comes to mind right now. So it would sound like, I should blank. You're going to write that down on your piece of paper there. And it could be anything that comes to mind. So I should stretch more. I should work on my taxes. I should go for a walk. I should drink more water. What's your statement?
Yeah, first thing I just want to say, the should statement is Louise Hay was her biggest curse word was the should statement. Because but yeah, I think everybody does this. I should eat better.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Write that down for me. Read it out loud again.
Yeah, I should eat better.
What emotion does that bring up? What energy does that create?
I guess the emotion I can say is guilt. It's mostly like a guilt feeling. I know I need to eat better, but I'm not eating better. So you get into this would have, should have game.
Most people describe it as pressure, obligation, guilt, in your case, things of that nature. Okay. So again, like Stacy said, we like to play games, and this is a fun way to socialize the idea of mindset, being the story we tell ourselves. So we're going to change one word at a time. Okay. So you're going to scratch out one word and write in another. So you're going to scratch out should and write in the word could, and then reread the statement.
I could eat better.
What's the difference?
Yeah, it just feels lighter. It doesn't feel as judgmental.
Awesome. We're going to go one step further. We're going to stretch out the could, and we're going to write in the word can. Now read it.
I can eat better.
Can you?
Yes, it's a statement of empowerment.
All right. So let's review. We've changed 2 words, right? We made 2 shifts in words. That's one word at a time. And we've gone from guilt to empowerment. All right. We didn't take any deep breaths. We didn't go get in an ice bath. We didn't close our eyes and hum. We changed the story by changing the language, which is on the word level where the rubber meets the road. And we've automatically changed the feeling that statement creates, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've changed a few other things too. We'll get to that in a second. The last thing we're going to do is add a because on the end of that statement. So I can eat better because, and then you fill in that blank.
Okay, I can eat better because otherwise life will be shorter.
Actually, before I go into that, what does that, based or compared to the first statement, the should, what does the I can because statement feel like to you from an energetic or an emotion standpoint?
Yeah, now it's more empowering that I'm going to eat better, so I prolong my life.
Bingo, right? And you are, just by adding that because statement to the end, you're 30% more likely to actually go and do something with that, right? To actually go and take action on that. Okay. And it doesn't matter what the because is. You could have said because the sky is blue. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this very altruistic thing or a big thing as I would say have been led to believe in a lot of self-development cultures. Like you got to know your why. And there's like really deep understanding. And it's like, you don't have the tools to dig that deep yet. So start with something you think of right off the top of your head and see how that moves you. So that the game you just played, thank you for playing, by the way, is called the Should Detox. And so you can do that with any should statement. You can move very quickly from should to could to can plus because. You must do it that way. It's not going to work as well to go from should to can plus because you don't allow your brain the time to make the cognitive shift. It won't believe you as much to go from I should save more money to I can save more money because I want to buy a boat. It's not going to make that shift as easily as going one step at a time. You're socializing that idea and playing a game like the word game, right? Your mom told you not to play with your food, but we're telling you to play with your words, right? Another thing that most people don't realize is this is why writing it down is important. Is why I very specifically told you to write it down, is because there's 3 speeds to our story. They're the fastest in our head. They're a little slower. So let's say moderate coming out of our mouth. So being spoken, they're the slowest on the page, whether that's on in an electronic format or pen and paper, pencil and paper, right? And so when you slow the story down, you actually get to see it and you can edit it and you can start to work a good piece of work on that story, which is working on what we like to say, working out your mindset. So right there, you just went to the mindset gym. You just worked out your mindset just by playing that Should Detox. How about that?
Yeah, it's just a really simple little process that everyone can do. Most people don't understand the power of their words. When I was very sick, I would wake up every morning going, what's going to go wrong today? And that created a disaster.
Well, your words really create your reality. They literally create your reality. I was on a client call yesterday and a client was telling me how they shifted their words and how impactful it was of something that I had shared with them months prior. I said, well, let me give you one more thing. I said, what would happen if you started your day with show me how good it can get? Just show me how good it can get. You wake up in the morning and going, how good can it get today? How good can I be today? Then what happens is we start to look for evidence that makes that true. Our brain comes alive and goes, oh, well, I'm looking for good things. And you start to see small things and the small things become bigger things and you create momentum for longevity. So what was the pivotal piece that made you aware that made you change the trajectory you were on?
Yeah, so for me, I was really locked into that reality. All I knew was doctors, medicine, diagnosis. That was my world. I was really trapped in that world. Nobody could have really convinced me to go to a mindset coach or alternate health. I was really locked into that mindset. So what the universe had to give me was with MS, I had chronic fatigue. So I was a couch potato. I watched a lot of TV. I used to watch ghost hunting shows, but I didn't know if it was real or fake. Well, I went on a ghost hunt. When I went on this ghost hunt, I felt somebody sitting next to me that didn't have a body. It's like, oh, ghosts are real. So from that, I said, okay, so well, who talks to ghosts? Mediums. So I read a book from a medium who talked about meditation. And one of the benefits of meditation was inner peace. I'm like, I need inner peace. Because my impetus was inner peace. Then through my simple meditation practice, I saw that I had thoughts, but I wasn't my thoughts. Then I asked the question, if I wasn't my thoughts, then who am I? Because I didn't know anything about spirit, soul, consciousness, none of that. I had no awareness of that. About 2 weeks later of my simple 5-minute a day practice, I just heard a voice one day after meditation say, perfect spirit. I'm like, that's it. My spirit is perfect. I'm not this damaged body and mind. I felt this great sense of peace come over me. I just sensed that all is well. And I knew all my health challenges were over. And they were.
Thank you so much for not only sharing that, but bringing clarity to when you shifted your perspective on your identity, your body responded accordingly.
Yeah.
These are the things that nobody talks about. These are the things that are misused, mismanaged, and manipulated that you can say whatever you want, but until you actually believe it and your nervous system responds to it, the body will not feel safe receiving it. Since that day where you were like, hey, I have a perfect spirit. I am not broken. Like I was designed beautifully. I am perfect in nature. How has your life shifted using that language when you refer to yourself?
Yeah, and there's no more attachment to that identity. That's why it's really good, this detox you gain, because there is that progressive shift of energy. The mind cannot accept that identity shift so quickly. So
Mhm.
it's a nice way to approach it. So I haven't heard that approach. So it's very, very useful.
Hey, take it with you, and everybody who's listening or watching, go and throw it down a couple times on your own piece of paper. We live by a rule in all of our workshops and presentations that we call the 30-50-80 rule. So you remember 30% of what you hear, 50% of what you write down, and 80% of what you turn around and share with, teach, or interact with someone else about. The most powerful ingrain this stuff is to turn around and share it with somebody else. Just to go like, hey man, I heard this really cool thing on a podcast called the Should Detox, and this is what it did for me. Right now, you can just tell them about your experience and move on down the road. A lot of people are white knuckled gripped into their shoulds, and their breath is trapped in their chest, and are walking around reliving their story day in and day out. Not everybody's ready for that shift. It took you ghost hunting to even step into that realm, which is a fascinating and amazing story. Never have heard that one before. So that's awesome.
Yeah, my story is a little bit out there. And I've been on meditation podcasts, and they said they never heard anybody found meditation through ghost hunting.
Hey, there's something out there for everybody, I can promise you.
Well, that's what we do. Understand we are all one with the universe, and it's always giving us breadcrumbs on how to move forward. So maybe today somebody's listening to my podcast for the first time that's dealing with a lot of should statements, and this podcast showed up, and here you are.
I love it. Going back to your question earlier, how did we get together? Like, why together? Stacy was my breadcrumb. Stacy was my breadcrumb because I'm from Eastern Arkansas, raised on a farm, family still farms, and a town of less than 3,000 people. I thought meditation was bullshit. I didn't know anything about the central nervous system, no energy, nothing like that. And I was just doing my thing in health and fitness. And Stacy became my client, and she was doing her work, nervous system type, trauma informed yoga style work with her clients. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know that I necessarily believe it, but that's interesting. I can see how that would be a thing. I'm not closed minded. I was just skeptical. And as she slowly introduced me and showed me stuff, it wasn't like she was trying to get me to do yoga or anything. Slowly over time, it was, oh, okay, this stuff actually does make a difference. And then not so slowly over time, it was, man, this is the thing that we need to be doing. And here we are.
It's great because there are no mistakes in the universe. Everything falls into perfect alignment if we're open to receive it. The universe really had to get my attention. If we give you an experience you're not going to forget.
I love it.
Some people would just say they're just, okay, ghosts are real, and they just would walk on from that. But I was curious, like, what is this?
You bring up a great point of where curiosity leads you. You asked us, how do we incorporate mindset? How do we get people aware of their story? You had to play a fun game with us, and we have more. So, not for today. That's the breadcrumb I'll leave. You don't get another game today. The playful curiosity of what happens when you're curious and not attached to the outcome. You talk about alignment and being able to receive. When you're stuck, it's really hard to have an open hand. It's a closed grip fist, and you can't hold anything with closed grip. And so curiosity goes, well, what if I released it just a little bit? What if I open my hands just a little bit? What if I open my concept of possibility? What if it did work out? And we ask such questions with curiosity. You look at what happens when we're curious, we create room for space and clarity, which is what stuck in a story or in a mindset gets you. You're rigid. There is no flexibility and no room for curiosity. People continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. The true magic is in the shift of the words and cultivating the opposite. So you gave the example of, hey, I feel horrible, I'm sick, to I'm a perfect spirit. And that quick, the trajectory changed. And then curiosity led you to everything else, which is why we're here right now. I love it.
Right. And curiosity is one of my favorite words. But when I was sick, I was curious in the wrong direction. I was reading everything I can about my ailments, the medications, what was coming down the road. I wasn't curious, like, why am I stuck with this forever? Because with MS, multiple sclerosis, you can literally read millions of articles talking about it's incurable. But why is that true? Because there's a handful of us out there that no longer have MS, but we don't hear about those stories. If we're curious and we look for those, it's almost like we have this cognitive bias. We see what we want to see, so we get locked into this.
Absolutely.
So it's really interesting how you came together. One's health and fitness, one's more of the nervous system, and then this joint, so you can really help individuals. And yoga made a huge difference in my life. After things shifted, I knew I had to do yoga to recover the body. My mind was in absolute protest, but I trusted that inner knowing. After 6 months, no more cane changed everything around. And it's just really being open to that. So, yeah. So now that you're doing this together, so what's the biggest obstacles that you are seeing out there that you're combining forces? What's that? Like for me, I'm seeing people that are stuck with this incurable story. What are you primarily seeing where they're getting in their own way?
Where I have come to think of it is what I call silos of healing. And people in our culture, let's say, or healing or whatever that, label that you want to put on it, there's a lot of different silos. There's a lot of different ways for you to do this. And it's very difficult for most people to integrate those within themselves, take what they need for themselves and leave the rest and continue to grow their understanding of their own story. And so, from my view, what I see the most difficult is people understand what is quote unquote wrong with them, right? They understand what their issue is, either because they got it from therapy, one silo of healing, or they had some type of inner conversation with themselves. Maybe that was through yoga. Maybe that was through some deep meditation. Maybe that was through some type of spiritual work, right? I mean, those are all different silos, let's say, of getting there, all different paths. And so what they have a hard time with is that's all good and well while they're doing it. But then life, as it always does, you have to go back into a quote 9 to 5, raising kids, your normal routines, those old stories and old emotions start to pop up and they run up against that enlightenment or whatever it is that you discovered. So now you're aware of, oh, this is the thing that's been holding me back or causing friction in my life. And at the same time, I don't really know what to do about it. Like I know that I can meditate on it. I know that I can move my body and move that energy through and all that kind of stuff. And I can use whatever extracurricular things, whether that be psychedelics or stones, whatever that is, to help. But I don't really know how to handle it. I don't know how to move through it because people try to get over stuff. There's no such thing as getting over it. You can only go through it. What I find to be one of the most difficult things is I understand why I'm jacked up. I understand why I get so stressed or I get so hyped on things, and I don't understand how to mitigate that to any degree. We're not saying that we're going to take the air out of every single thing that's ever bothered you. We can do a really good piece of work together in, let's say, 6 months through this process of writing and reading stories, which is how we actually do the mindset work with our clients, to get you to where not only do you have an understanding of what your triggers are, but you also have a way to go, you know what? That was the way that I thought. That was the story that I tell yourself. And now I see that story from a different lens. What I find the most difficult part for people is to come up against that story and try to see it through a different lens. So we help them through that process. And you're going to say, oh, wow, this is shocker. Nobody ever writes anything down. Nobody ever writes anything down because then it's real, right? At least that's what people think. They're like, oh, if I write it down, now it's in. See, look, there's the evidence that I've been an asshole my entire life, that I've been a piece of shit, and this is the reason that I am the way that I am. Okay, cool. If that's what you think now, that's cool. I'm not going to argue with your own stories. What if we edited the words? Because now that it's down on paper, we can actually start to edit the words. We liken it to a mechanic. Like mechanics don't drive vehicles 80 mile an hour down the road, then pop the hood and start changing parts. It wouldn't work very well, would it? So what do? They park the car, then they pop the hood, then they get in there and start looking at what's going on and see if they can switch out some parts. So what do? We park the story. We write it down, type it out. And in our practice, we do all our stuff online and we look at the same word so there's no conjecture. And we go, well, what if we took out this word and put in this word? Or what if we changed these words around? Then what would that story mean about you? And all of a sudden, we've switched out the lens in which their mind views that story. And now it's not so heavy. It's not so haunting. Or now there's not a whole bunch of that sting in there.
That's a great explanation. I love these silos of healing. It gets really complex. If you look at all these silos of healing, it's really complex and you got, this is too much work. So I'm just curious, Stacy, you have all this complexity from the silos of healing. How do you simplify besides writing it down? And is that really the technique, is just writing it down, then working through that?
I wish it was that simple. It comes from, if you're asking for the process, it's not just writing it down.
I'm just saying, with the silos of healing and all this complexity, how do we simplify that for individuals?
Okay. Well, I'll let you know how we do it, right? We'll socialize the idea just like we did today. We'll play a game. will introduce how your words are impacting your energy, right? They're either bringing you closer to what you want or farther away from what you want. And they really are spells. With your words, you create. And so people don't realize that every moment they are either drawing things to them or pushing things away. Alignment, right? Are they open to receiving? So that perspective shift is we have them write out a story, a memory. I'll give you an example of what one of mine was. I didn't like to ask for help and needed to do everything all by myself. If I did that, I would be really safe and nobody could ever hurt me, right? That was the story. Overworker, overachiever. If 2 layers of a cake are great, 3 is better. If we're going to work out once a day, we're definitely going to work out twice a day. We can do jujitsu, CrossFit, and do a ruck, because the stronger I was, the less I could get hurt. Okay. That was the story. Well, that story started very early on and had nowhere to go. It just lived in my head. So yes, writing it out is just step 1. Step 2 is I'm going to read it out loud. And there's usually this emotional attachment, either when you write it out or read it the first time, there's this crescendo, because writing is a form of thinking. So we're making room for space and clarity by writing it and then reading out loud. Then we're going to add another step. We're going to slow it down and we're going to read it at 70% speed, which then, oh my gosh, what happens when we slow the story down? You would not think it's anything profound, but it's hugely profound, because we live life so fast and we speak so fast and think so fast that slowing down is typically the greatest piece of friction, where people take something that feels really close to the front of their face and slowing it down gives them a little distance. And then we even double down on that as we invite breath into the story. In between sentences, it's a full inhale and full exhale, which then we got the nervous system on board and we've got space and clarity, and something that was 1,000 pounds in a backpack that you've carried around for 30 years is now empty. It makes all the other silos, which are complicated, less attractive. Because if I can move a story that's been stuck in my life for 40 years in 25 minutes and have a completely different perspective and a nervous system response, then where else would I go? I always have a pen and a piece of paper and my breath available to me in any situation. I don't have to go to yoga. It's hard to meditate while you're driving. You can safely meditate while you're driving, just to focus on one thing. It's hard to go get in a cold plunge or order another planner or all the things we think we need to do, when the gift is slowing it down, inviting breath into it, and shifting perspective.
Really important to slow down, because we are impatient in this society. The invention of the microwave has caused some issues.
It is our number 1 cause of a stress response. I was driving from here to Overland Park, Kansas. You need to know that I am born and raised as a Southern California girl. When he met me, I had purple hair. We would not be sitting here today with the previous versions of ourselves we were. But so you have a girl who was born and raised in Southern California, moves to North Texas, and now is driving through Kansas. I'm used to giant freeways and traffic. Here I am driving through Middle America, water tower towns. I'm watching Dollar Generals, no grocery stores, and gas stations that sell pizza that I don't understand, because Southern California, you don't eat food from a gas station. Like, you don't do that. That's really bad. But people come to gas stations in Middle America for their pizza. I didn't know that this was a thing. So I'm driving through these towns of maybe a few thousand people. And I had this thought, are they more fulfilled because life is slower and they have less options to choose from? Not that they don't have challenges. Life is going to life and everything goes from order to disorder, and we get to live in the middle of that. But because they don't have the friction of time constraints and the stress and all the busyness, is their life more fulfilling? Different people who live in small towns, the answer is yes. And so where are we contributing? When you ask to slowing down is a huge thing. Where are we contributing to the thing that we say we don't want? If we keep life moving fast, then we actually don't ever have to feel anything but stress and anxiety. We can numb ourselves with a culture that says, yep, stay that busy. Busy is your badge of honor. You overworking? Great. I mean, I could have got sainthood for as much as I did. I mean, we didn't even get to me being a foster parent advocate or anything. Like, I would have gotten an award for burnout. And that's what culture rewards. But healing's not in burnout. It is in the slowing down.
Yeah, that's really profound. I didn't even think about that. But without all this chaos in these big cities, you can slow down and be more fulfilled with what you have. You're not always chasing. So I'm just curious, Justin, since you mentioned it, how do you deal with a woman with purple hair? As a
I
farm boy,
Well, I'll remind you of where we started here. Not something that I necessarily would do. And, some of that I think is bullshit and it's cool. Like I will talk to, be friends with pretty much anybody, right? I'm not a closed-minded individual. I am skeptical based on being raised in an area where I wasn't exposed to a ton of different types of people. The very first time we had a conversation, like a FaceTime, was she was baking at this bakery that she used to work at in this little town in California. Of course, they're like gluten free, dairy free, vegan, vegetarian, all this kind of stuff, but she's making baked goods in that vein. Purple hair and a cracked iPhone camera. So I'm getting splinters of light through the picture. Here it is, this woman with purple hair who's like, "Hey, my name's Stacy and I want some help losing weight." And so I learned that yes, her hair was dyed, had some purple in it. And she previously said, if I'm strong or if I'm outlandish or if I put on this mask, then people can't take advantage of me. People don't talk to a lot of people with purple hair unless they're like, "Oh, cool, your hair's purple." And then they just move on down the road. And so when you say, what do you do with that? I didn't really know that. I don't really have an answer for that because I didn't know what to do with that. I just did the best that I could at the time. And so then Stacy goes, "You knew exactly what you were doing." Like, again, this is back then when we first became friends. And I'm like, "No, I didn't. I was just doing what I thought the next best thing was to help you get to where you wanted to be." Over time, we grew to be friends. And here we are with a business. Stacy taught me about people based on her having purple hair. I try to live by don't judge a book by its cover, but the cover can tell you a lot about a person more than they lead on, right? So the presentation you're getting is something that either they're trying to get more of or feeling they're trying to avoid. This is also something that Stacy helped me a lot with. She's been studying human behavior and in that nervous system space for over a decade. She was like, "Hey, behavior is pretty simple. Either people are trying to get more of something or they're trying to avoid something." So when it comes down to something as simple as a little more color in your hair, it doesn't seem that deep. And at the same time, it's okay, well, what led you to the decision to actually do that to your hair?
Oh, it was so much work. It was so much work to do and so much work to maintain. You didn't get to see the in between where it had to be pink before it got to be purple.
So you were pink, purple haired, Southern California, baking gluten free, dairy free, joy free.
Special needs. Just add on the list of me keeping a story that keeps people away. Husband in the military. What do we want to add to this dish of story?
I think you mentioned something really important, Justin. Doing the next best thing. That's all we can really do. What is that next best thing for you? If we can really just slow down as opposed to being reactionary, what is the next best thing? And what feels right to you when you can slow down, break that habit of following your routines? Because it sounds like Stacy broke your routines because she didn't fit your mold at all.
Oh my God, how true is that?
She didn't fit my mold in appearance or in behavior, right? The part we didn't get to was she told me how she was going to let me coach her. She's like, "Okay, this is what I'm going to let you do in terms of our coaching relationship." And I was like, "All right, cool." I'm pretty laid back. I don't give a lot of ground on things that matter to me. There's a lot of things that you can be flexible on. I'm let you believe whatever you want to believe, and I'm cool with that. Here we are. It's a fun story, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, that's the whole thing about the premise of business, that playtime, have fun and enjoying life. And it really forced you to expand when you met her. It forced you into a new way to open you up that there's more to life than just what you're doing with health and fitness.
And so you want to know what's the next best thing? What can people do today? And how do you simplify this whole thing? We simplify it with our one-on-one clients, or we actually dual coach everybody that we work with. We both sit here and talk to you and coach people two-on-one in that way. And for the people who are not to that point yet, we like to give them a piece of their language that's very easy, very simple to start to adjust and watch how it creates a ripple effect in their life. And so these are the soft talk keywords. Soft talk is anything that creates uncertainty, ambiguity, or indecision. And so should is one of those words. Okay, so we did the should detox at the beginning because that's a big one, right? You're shoulding on yourself again. And like you said, that's a dirty word in some people's dialect. There's a list of them, probably, perhaps, guess, feels like, sort of, kind of, try, one day. Those type of things. Okay, and the link that will be included in the show notes has a place where you can get the whole list of words. We call it the 16 words that are destroying your life. They're self talk keywords, and they soften and create indecision in our intentions. We don't even know where we're getting friction in our life. And it's an on ramp for you to start to change your language, which is an upgrade into working out and working on your mindset, which is a story you tell yourself. Because remember, that story is made of words. So rubber meets the road, story work, ground level is going to be where the words come out of your mouth, right? So if you said, I guess I want to eat healthier this year, okay, well, that there's not a very high likelihood that you're actually going to take action on that. But you take out the guess and you're going to say, I want to eat healthier this year. Okay, well, that's a step in the right direction, right? You're upgrading, right? And you could even go from I want to I will to I am. And you can even, and this is our favorite thing, ask a better question, which is, how am I eating healthier this year? Because when you have a good question, okay, Kindlin's Law, Kindlin, Kindlin's Law states that any question sufficiently worded and written down is half answered. You can Google that, not our invention. That's Kindlin's Law. The purpose of what I'm saying is this: start with the soft talk, right? Start to notice and be aware and pluck out the words where they don't make sense. I'm not saying remove it from your language completely, right? Every once in a while, things are low stakes. Like if you were like, hey, where are we going to go eat today? And I said, well, we could go to Outback Steakhouse, right? Okay, that's likely not going to ruin your life because you put a could on where you're going to go eat. But if it's a timely decision or a big decision, like I should take care of myself or I should work on my health, that's going to create a lot of ambiguity and cause a lot more friction than is necessary, right? So you can have those soft talk keywords, take a look at them, hang them somewhere you're going to see them, write them down, hang them somewhere your brain's going to go, hey, why are you looking at these words? And you're going to say, I don't know. Justin just told me to pay attention to them. And now your brain is going to go, you know what? I say feels like a lot. It feels like I'm not going to like the way that people are talking to me today. It feels like I'm procrastinating. Well, are you or are you not? And so you go through that time and you say, how do you simplify this? That's the first step, really, is starting to watch your language and pluck out the words where they're not adding to your life and go from there.
Right. It's really important to watch our words, but we can't even watch our words if we're chasing that next thing that Stacy was getting to, that slowing down and growing patience. Otherwise, just chasing. And it's all about slowing down and taking a break and really watch the words, because words are creating our reality. So I'm really enjoying this conversation. We could absolutely talk for hours because I'm more curious about the prior version of Stacy and how she made this big, huge shift. That's another thing that we can really talk about sometimes, because we're always changing ourselves. So it's really impressive. If individuals had questions for you, Stacy or Justin, how could they reach out and ask you questions?
The best way to get us is really Instagram. Send us a direct message. I'm at Stacy J. Hansen, and I'm sure it'll be in the show notes as well. And he's at Farmer TO to Fitter. And there's links on there to our landing page and all of that. We're accessible. I get to hear a lot from people who meet us in person or have listened to our podcast. You do want to reach out. You never know what conversation leads you to the next version of yourself. And should we get to come back and you get to hear the Stacy evolution story, which is so fun to tell. And I know, Justin, we enjoy being a part of it. It was a huge part of the transformation of how I changed my story as well. We're available to talk. If the thought crossed your mind, yes, send us a message. We're regular humans.
Yeah, that's a good point too. We're regular humans. We're trying to make the best of this human experience. So even if you don't know what to say, just say, hey, I heard you. What's the first step? Or just say hello and you can ask them questions.
When we talked about slowing down, right? Online and social media is amazing, but we're humans still needing human connection. We're wired for connection. And so those human conversations, just like this one, we were brought together by a platform that says, hey, you two would be a great match. And I love this conversation. Phenomenal conversation. We could even go into ghost hunting and spirits and all sorts of things. The human connection is something that people not only they need, but are so lacking, because that momentum of I have to do the next thing, have to not get to have a conversation keeps them isolated. So send us a message. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, another strong element, the human connection that was really missing and really destroyed by society a few years ago. That human connection created so many issues when we didn't have that human connection.
I agree 100%.
Thank you again for joining us in the conversation. There'll definitely be a round 2, maybe a round 3 in the future.
We're here for it.
We'd love to do it.
Thank you.